Have you seen this thing on the internet where people will take something that everyone does that's completely ordinary and they'll be like, hey, if you do that thing, you must be neurodivergent, which is to say that either we're all neurodivergent or the word is starting to lose its meaning, which is something else that we've seen occurring on the internet over time with a lot of words. That takes us to this post that's been going around in discourse with 300,000 views on Twitter, talking about the English voice actor for Subaru in ReZero, that being Sean Chiplock, and they say, Sean, Subaru's English VA, says that Subaru is 100% neurodivergent, and yet we have people that deny it to this date. So there's a number of things to unpack here. Again, if you want to make the argument that Subaru is neurodivergent, fine, go ahead. But if your argument is, hey, this thing that everyone does is why I'm saying he is, that's not a good argument. And furthermore, the OP citing an English voice actor as if they're the arbiter of an intellectual property when they're obviously not. They're just a person paid to voice a character. And you're acting like that person is the arbiter of the truth of that intellectual property. That's a horrible point as well, obviously. Somehow the OP didn't get that though. But let's watch the 2 minute and 20-second long clip that started all of this.
Way. And I also appreciate that he was someone who thinks a lot and then just act like it's almost like Death Note in a way, where you'd have entire scenes where he's talking out loud to himself for like a minute and a half at a time. Yeah. If I do this, then this is going to happen. And let me just say it right now, his ass is so neurodivergent. It's 100% neurodivergent. Yeah, I mean, I am the kind of person who will think through every possible outcome of a social situation before I've even gone to that social situation, because I want to be prepared so that I don't make a fool of myself. But then I often end up stressing myself out because I'm thinking of all these potential outcomes, 95% of which are never going to happen in the first place. So I think that's what made me so excited when I had the chance to audition for him.
So like I said, if you want to make the argument that Subaru is neurodivergent, go ahead, but that's a really bad argument. First of all, what he described is overthinking things, and a lot of people overthink things. There's been a lot of books about this too, including a book that I have, which compiles notes from Bruce Lee. And Bruce Lee himself also wrote about this on page 43 of the book Striking Thoughts, which again was a collection of his notes. So here's a screenshot from my own book. Look at this. Talk about going above and beyond, right? But we're going to take a look at the center area of this page. Also, excuse me, I called it a screenshot, but that's just bad habit. This is a literal picture of the page from my book that I'm holding in my hand right now. You can here, look at this. See? That's what it's from. Well, you can't see that, but you can hear it. Whatever, you get the point. And so the whole passage talks about overthinking. But we'll just read the bottom area there, the final closing line that reads, balance your thoughts with action. If you spend too much time thinking about a thing, you'll never get it done. You know, pretty simple concept, and that's true. A lot of people procrastinate because they overthink things, and that's just a normal part of being human. There's a lot of reasons why this might be the case for a lot of people to varying extents. And simply reducing all of that to, oh, neurodivergent, you're cutting out a lot of nuance and a lot of context into why people behave in this manner. And also, you're like underestimating how many people have this problem, which comes off a bit egotistical. And when I say I'm obviously talking about Sean Chiplock. It's bad phrasing on my part. Also, calling it a problem, it's not always a problem. There's benefits to it. It can be a problem sometimes. Sometimes it can be a good thing. Again, nuance. Now, I cited Bruce Lee, but there's other authors I've also read books from that tackle this subject. And interestingly enough, it's never like the main topic for the entire book, but a lot of books I've read in terms of how to improve your performance in various ways, whether it's positive thinking or like the work process, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of authors do tackle this topic of overthinking things. So again, I'll circle back to saying that this is a commonplace thing. I myself have had this issue my entire life to varying extents, depending on the context, depending on how old I was at the time, but it still persists to this day, especially in certain contexts. But we'll move on in a second. I do want to address one more thing that he said from the prior clip before we watch the rest, and that is this part, where he gives another example of what he finds to be neurodivergent behavior.
It's almost like Death Note in a way, where you'd have entire scenes where he's talking out loud to himself for like a minute and a half at a time. Yeah. If I do this, then this is going to happen.
Look, I'm really not trying to be rude, but what a bad example. Dude, first of all, almost anyone that gets a Death Note and reads it and tries it out, they're going to be thinking way in advance about, the massive amount of risk and the ethical and moral questions that it raises. And then even more so for Light, because he's also an analytical person. So, like, there's a lot of explanations. There's plenty more, too, but I'm not going to do a whole Death Note breakdown right now, nor do I think it's necessary to get the point, or for people to get the point, because this is all a very basic concept. Anyways, here is the rest of the clip.
Is I think about the first fight scene when he's fighting against the thugs in the alleyway for the first time. And he punches someone. He's like, oh my God, I actually did that. This is a weird example, but it will make sense when I describe it. So there was a event that I was a volunteer for where I happened to be witness to two people getting harassed by someone, like verbally and almost physically harassed. And the only thing that I did was record so that if something happened, I had proof to provide to somebody. And they didn't like the people who were assaulting the other people didn't like the fact that I was recording. So all of a sudden they targeted me. And I mean, they came up, they physically assaulted me. They tried to grab my phone. They didn't end up getting it. And you would think, wow, that might be really stressful. But when they left, when they got apprehended, when people got a hold of them and all that was over, instead of me going, oh my God, I'm so scared. Oh my God, I can't believe that happened. I was like vibrating with energy going, holy crap, I was the person who got assaulted, Wow. I'm the person that it happened to. It's on video. It's going to be on the internet. And it wasn't because I felt like a hero, but it was because, like, I was the one who was involved. And so I felt that kinship with Subaru, where it's like he is someone who does stuff and then also reacts to the fact that he was involved in the incident in the first place. So there's a lot of kinship that I have with that character.
Again, I'm really not trying to be rude here. I almost feel bad. This is like such low-hanging fruit, but like, dude, he's taking something that's a commonplace, ordinary reaction and acting like that's a unique thing. And it's like, bro, you're giving main character syndrome energy. Like, you got to understand that this is a basic way that people function. It's really not out of the ordinary. But I swear, if the comments are filled with people that are going to say, like, actually, Hero, hey, none of us think like that. We don't know what you're talking about. Like, you must be neurodivergent. I'm just going to pack it up. I don't even know what to say now, actually. I'm losing my train of thought. See, now I'm overthinking things. The video's not even out yet, and I'm imagining comments. Oh my gosh, guys. All right, enough playing around, though. Let's take a look at some responses that the OP got, and the OP is not happy. For example, this comment reads, as someone who is neurodivergent, if the author doesn't confirm, then he isn't neurodivergent no matter what the voice actor claims. The voice actor is not the writer. All this does is cause unnecessary drama and make neurodivergent people look bad. The OP, like I said, did not like that. Says, as someone who has a psych degree and ND, I'm allowed to confirm. Oh my gosh, the freaking ego's crazy. I'm sorry, I couldn't even finish reading that sentence. Let me try again really quick. As someone who has a psych degree and ND, I'm allowed to confirm that Subaru is indeed ND. We don't need Tepe to confirm some we can understand from the text. That's like saying Subaru doesn't have PTSD because text doesn't confirm he has PTSD. Stop being obtuse. Excuse me, I have a degree, I have a psych degree, so I'm able to make my headcanon canon. Forget what the actual artist, the actual mangaka, the writer says. Yeah, that doesn't matter because I got this piece of paper. Okay, bro, calm down. Response reading, PTSD is the only thing that can be confirmed just based on the events of the series. But neurodivergence is just speculation on your part. You just want him to be so. The OP says, because he is ND. And display canon traits, so stop being obtuse. Claiming you are ND while ignoring his ND traits is truly something. The other person once again responds and says, just because you identify with the character doesn't mean that the character is ND. And the OP like quadruples down here saying he is ND. Dude, 11 replies, no likes. Another response reading, I don't mind this interpretation. However, I don't know why anyone has to parade it as absolute. I actually have autism, and I don't necessarily think he's neurodivergent, but a lot of his trauma aligns with symptoms. I personally don't understand the need to force disorders onto fictional characters. See, that's an actual nuanced take. It's actually amazing that in a single tweet and change, this person provided a better analysis than Sean Chiplock did in that entire video. I suppose I'll leave it just about here. I could go on, though. I'll add this really quick. I could give you so many examples about this sort of thing from a martial arts perspective as well, which I don't think is really related if we're talking about social examples. So I'm not saying this is a factor to the conversation we've had up until this point, but I will leave you with this. In terms of martial arts, you're thinking everything in advance. Dude, if I'm sparring someone in Muay Thai and I spend the first round trying to figure out their style and their stance and what techniques they like, and I go into the first round knowing I'm just going to throw jab, push kick, and low kick just to kind of set up how they react to my jab and my push kick in particular, I know that in round 2, when I go for a jab or a push kick, they might think I'm going to follow that up with a low kick, or whatever the case may be, will be operating in the same manner I was in round 1. When in reality is I'm actually setting them up in round 1 so that when I go for the jab or the push kick in round 2, I'm actually going to turn into a fake, get them to like switch their guard and make an opening. So maybe I'll go for the push kick and then I'll bring it back before it actually lands. I'll switch stance and then go for a head kick or something off that. And of course, I also know that my opponent, depending on how good they are, might be expecting me to do that. In round 1, they know that round 1, I'm setting things up and seeing how they react. They're doing the same thing to me. So in round 2, my strategy might not even work because they're already anticipating that I'm going to switch it up. And so this is how the game is played. It's basically like chess. You're thinking many moves in advance. And this can apply to martial arts and fighting. And yes, it can also apply to social situations as well. And again, I know there is a big difference between thinking things through in a fight, in an actual combat scenario, and or in a social scenario. But I'll leave it there. Thank you for tuning in. Let me know what you think about all this. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one.